What's up, you guys? So in this episode of Everyday I'm Grinding TV, we sit down and talk with Kaylee Jade Warfield, who while in college started an initiative in order to combat racism. She wants people to both literally and figuratively give the finger to racism. Are you guys ready? I'm ready. Let's just get into it.
When I was in high school, it was during the time of the Michael Brown case, and the Black Lives Matter movement was kind of picking up, and the Ferguson riots were going on. And I was really upset by it. It was really tugging on my heartstrings, and I was angry too. And I was expressing my anger and my frustration to my dad, and I was like, Dad, I don't understand how racism is still a problem. I don't understand how people are not seeing how wrong this is. I don't understand why we're not talking about it. Why hasn't it changed? And he understood my frustration. My father is African American and my mom is Italian, so I'm a mixed race person. And so they've gone through struggle and I've gone through struggle, but his whole point in that was, Kaylee, I've gone through struggle and a lot of people go through struggle. I know you've gone through struggle, but if you want to see a change, then you have to be that change. And so we kind of came up with this campaign together, Fuck Racism, and he stood by this name of Fuck Racism, which is incredibly bold. But at the time, I couldn't find any other words to describe what I was feeling besides fuck racism. And I think that it fits really well because we're a generation now, and this time specifically is a time where people are incredibly vocal, incredibly active. There's marches, everything is being done to move forward and make a change and voice these frustrations we've had for centuries. So there was no better name than Fuck Racism to me. And I love how bold it is because people, when they see it, they're like, yo, that's dope. I really stand by that. What does it mean? And why do you feel that way? And it starts conversations, and that's exactly what I want it to do, is to provoke these conversations, to have a constructive conversation about the subject matter, and to empathize and sympathize with somebody else. So, and I mean, really, Fuck Racism stands for fully committed to knock out racism. So that's the whole thing. And I think it should be bold because now, there is no other time than to be as loud as possible. We've been quiet about it for a really long time. And at this point, I think that people are done with it. People are done with racism. So fuck it. Fuck racism. Well, I think that I've always experienced racism. When I think back to elementary school, I can definitely pull moments and be like, oh, that was definitely racism, but that's only because I am more mature enough and older enough to recognize that it was absolutely racism. At the time when I was so young, I didn't really understand it. So I've really always been in positions of being the minority and, being the oppressed. However, the one particular time where it really stuck out to me and it was incredibly problematic, and it really internalized for me the fact that I was always going to be seen as a brown girl and that this is the way that society was going to interpret me, was during spring break, my freshman year of high school. I had just gotten out of a relationship with my first boyfriend ever, and he was a white boy. And so we went down, at the time, everybody was super about Seaside and 30A. So everybody from Afua went down there. And all these kids are on the beach, all these high schoolers on the beach. There's a lot of underage drinking at the time. And my ex-boyfriend in particular was incredibly intoxicated. And so we were having an argument on the beach, and he called me the N-word and mutt. Called me a mutt in front of everybody. And it was the most humiliating, isolating experience I've ever gone through. It was truly the first time where I felt alone. And it was all because of how he saw me. He didn't see me as a person, he saw me as a person of color. And because of that, he attached the names and the stigmas of being an N-word or being a mutt because I'm biracial. and it was, I mean, it was very hurtful. And I really had never experienced that much pain before until that moment. But it was something that stuck with me, and it was something that gave me a tougher skin, but also the courage and the strength to speak up about these problems. And in fact, if I'm in a room with somebody who thinks that it's okay to say those things to me, or just in the environment, I will shut it down. So now I have the courage and the strength to speak up about it. At the moment I did not, but because of that moment, it has taught me so much. So yeah, that was the first time. It was not fun, it sucked, but I mean, I wouldn't be who I am today, and I definitely wouldn't have this movement without it, so yeah. We're about 4 years into it. I think the most shocking supporters that have come about were definitely Layla Ali, which was pretty incredible to have somebody who is such a wonderful and encouraging public figure to be on board with us. Was really awesome. Her father being Muhammad Ali, and just like that just as a whole was just like incredibly gratifying moment. We've had Usher come on board, which was pretty dope. I mean, I'm a big fan of him. And Cedric the Entertainer has come on board. He's bought some t-shirts, and they've posted it on their social media, and it's got a lot of tracking to our page, which has been really cool. So those were just a few people like that were really dope to have on board with us, and very shocking too, because I still think like there's so many more people that we can like reach. And so just to have those public figures, huge public figures, to be on board with us, that just like, that gives me this kind of validation almost that I'm doing something right, and that people are on board and like they support what I'm doing. The types of people, the encouragement I've had from just generally supporting, from a supportive environment, the encouragement has been the most overwhelming, and like I can't even express just how good it feels to have people come to me and say like, I love your movement, I love your campaign, I want a t-shirt, I want a sticker, I want a sweatshirt, I want a pillow, I want a coffee mug, I love what you're doing, this is dope, I want to buy some of your stuff and I want to wear it. The best parts is when I'm wearing a t-shirt, or if I'm wearing a sticker's on my laptop and I'm in a coffee shop and somebody comes up to me and they're like, yo, like, what is that? Like, whose company is that? What brand is that? I'm like, it's actually mine. But you can check it out. Like, if you want to go to fck.racism.com, you can check it out and you can order some stuff. And they're like, yeah, that's super dope. Like, I'm all about that. I would love to be on board with that. And then it starts this conversation, and we start talking about each other's experiences, and suddenly you have this connection to somebody else where you're empathizing and sympathizing with somebody who has experienced perhaps like some kind of racism, or maybe they've never experienced racism but they've seen it, and they want to be somebody who can speak up about it. They want to be somebody who pushes the conversation, who pushes right from wrong, or wrong from right. And so that has been the most validating and encouraging part of this whole campaign and this brand in general. So our current social climate is ugly. It's really, really very ugly. Racism has been going on for about 400 years since slavery, and then civil rights, that was about 60 years ago, 50, 60. So it is still very, very ugly. However, I think that we have made progress. I think that there is a lot of progress to be made. But I think that now, with all these different platforms of social media, we've got Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, we've got people specifically from this generation who are incredibly active and vocal and want to create this change and want to use their platforms for the betterment of our society. So I even though I do think it's ugly, because it is, I do think that it's bringing a very sincere awareness to these internal issues that we have within our system and within our society, within our country, within the world as a whole. I think that it has raised so much awareness that now we have a very incredible Black Lives Matter movement. We've got campaigns like Fuck Racism, and we've got these communities where people can be with each other and, you know, like create that change together. So it really like unifies this togetherness for everybody. And although it is ugly, I do think that even with the current presidential climate within our administration, even though I do not stand with 45, I do think that his administration and the instances that we've had that really reflect his ugly colors, and his use of this language of bigotry has really brought to light the ugliness in our nation, and the ugliness and these people who continue this language of racism. So now we have absolutely no choice but to address these topics. We have to talk about race. It's something that's insanely problematic, has been problematic for a very long time, and now we must talk about it. It brings to light that race is at the center of almost every issue. And for people of color, it has always been the center of every issue. So I think that it only sparks conversation, and that only sparks change. So even though it's ugly, we're getting somewhere, I think, maybe, hopefully. So the N-word, it's a very hard topic for me to talk about just because I see two sides to it. I see the perspective of it being used as a form to take back this power that's been taken from people of color. So this word that has brought upon so much negativity and so much degradation, and just it's brought so much harm and hurt amongst the community of Black people. I can understand how now in this time where people want to take back that power from the word. So you have a lot of rap artists who use it, and very freely, and so they kind of describe it as a way of being a term of endearment, which I do understand. And I mean, if Jay-Z is doing some songs with the N-word, and even Beyonce or Kendrick or whoever, I'm probably gonna sing along with it. However, I also think that because of these artists who do use these words, I think that it perpetuates into this kind of, this openness for every kind of person to be able to use it, because they cannot stop the audiences who hear their music. So whether it's a white person or an Asian person, if they're listening to these songs by these artists with that word included in it, then they probably feel that they're included in saying it, which continues this repetitive cycle of who's allowed to say it and who's not, and how come you can say it but I can't say it. Regardless, I think that only people of color, Black people, should be able to say it. I don't think that anybody else should be able to say it. If you have, like, if you're part Black, if you have Black in you, you can probably say it. I'm biracial. Sometimes I say it, but I do not say it in a free conversation. I don't like to say it because I do think that it can have a very negative context to it, no matter what it is. And I think that by choosing not to say it, you are not repeating this cycle of degradation, this cycle of oppression, Even if we feel like we are taking power back from the word and now we have this power, I still think that it's not justified enough. And I think that it would be better for people to look at it from a place of, okay, well, you know, like this word has formed this idea of what it's supposed to mean, right? Because when you hear that word or when you see it, what comes to your mind? Absolutely a Black person, no matter what. And for some people, it's a Black person being lynched, hanging from a noose. So I'm not a fan of people saying it. I don't like to be around people who say it. But it's very contradicting, because I also, like, I love the rap culture. I love what it's done for this Black community. It's hard. It's a hard thing to talk about and like find some kind of like solid conclusion. All I know is that I don't choose to say it. I think that it does repeat the cycle. I mean, even when I was younger, like when I was in high school, my friends who would say it just, there was so much venom in the word, it would disgust me. I'm like, don't say that around me. Just don't say it around me. But it's a hard topic to talk about. I mean, like, I understand the people who do want to say it. I understand where they're coming from. Me personally, no, I don't think that we should be saying it. It does repeat the cycle. So yeah. I would never run for Congress. Never. No, wouldn't do it. Well, you see, the thing is I admire people, you know, with my complexion, of color, Black people, any minority really, who decide to enter any race to be a Congress member, I don't know, like in legislative, representative, president. I think it is absolutely amazing. Would I do it? No. And the reason why is because I just don't think that I would want to deal with that kind of energy, that kind of negative energy. I don't want to have to be, I'm a very loud person. I'm a very active person, and I don't hold back when I feel a certain way. So to have to be able to hold back in these very professional environments, these very dry environments where there's no emotion, there can't be any emotion, I couldn't do it. I think that I can use my platform and be like an activist in other ways, and I think that I can do that through my art, because that is what I want to do, what I want to be. I want to be a filmmaker, a writer, the Issa Rae, the Ava DuVernay, the Donald Glover. That's what I want to be. That's what I want to do. Barry Jenkins. I want to make films and TV shows that provide unity and like a thought-provoking subject matter, but also that is like very representative of this culture. So I want to use my platform for that, and I think that if I can do any kind of piece, any kind of TV show, any kind of movie that brings to light social justice, then I'm all about that. Being in Congress, no, definitely not. Okay, so you can follow fck.racism on Instagram at fck.racism. You can follow us on Twitter at fck.racism, and you can go to our website, which is www.fck.racismnow.com. And there we've got buttons, sweatshirts, t-shirts, posters, phone cases. We've got a lot of cool stuff, so you should check it out. And if you want to follow my personal Instagram, that is at Kaylee Jade Warfield. So yeah, check us out, join the movement, love racism.